Three, two. All right, welcome to our curriculum initiative project. We're going to talk about facing history in ourselves as our curricular initiative. All right, so we took a decision-making process to determine whether or not this would be the right curriculum for us. And so we did come to that decision based on data. Based on the ELA data collected within our district, facing history in themselves offers the students a real chance to develop their level of educational achievement while also being engaging for students. The data that we pulled, 11.3% of Black students are meeting or exceeding on IAR, while 17.1% of Hispanic students are meeting or exceeding on IAR. And disciplinary data as well shows that students engaging in behavior cause class disruptions as well as in and out of the classroom suspensions. And one of the things that Facing History in Ourselves offers is a more engaging curriculum that is less likely to allow students, or not allow students, but have students want to disrupt the class. Next slide. So this curriculum is all about fostering mutual respect, inclusion, and building students' capacity to discuss difficult topics. But it's also a super rigorous ELA curriculum and social studies curriculum on its own. Students are analyzing primary sources. They're getting understanding of the world around them through literature, through history. And so by doing so, they're engaging with it, and they're also tackling a lot of those ELA standards that are super important for them. And because of that engagement and learning, it helps transform them into lifelong learners. Lifelong learners end up taking ownership and investment in themselves. And that's one of the things that we really hope this curricular initiative will do for our students. Again, Facing History in Ourselves is a curriculum that works with students to engage deep academic learning because of that engagement factor. And also, we talk a lot about culturally relevant teaching. This is one of the most culturally relevant curriculums out there. It does allow students to really see themselves in history and really see history that is based on their experiences and their family experiences. So it does meet social emotional needs. But it also, again, one of the great things, I can't say enough great things about it. It does teach democratic values. It does foster this civic knowledge, and it does drive civic engagement, which we need students to do in order to become lifelong learners. And equity is a focus. And then last, I'm going to go to the pedagogical triangle. Again, our goal is to increase our ELA scores within our school and produce civic engagement that engages kids in learning. And this triangle kind of encompasses everything. It has the intellectual rigor, it has the emotional engagement, and it even has the ethical reflection to have students reflect on themselves in their world and what their place in the world is. And all of that leads to civic participation, which is why this curriculum is the focus of our project.
Okay, so next we're going to talk about the action plan, and that's going to be just how we roll this out to the board as well as to our staff. So as part of this, our professional development is going to allow teachers to talk about their own internal biases and address those biases. As we know, we're all human. We all come with a ton of life experiences, as well as interpreting historical facts through the lens of minorities. So we're going to start the work this year around this time. And we're just going to first start off with just talking with our staff about what's going on. We know always around that February, March time, that's when things start getting a little chaotic, things start getting a little hectic. So just start really just problem solving. What are the issues that they're seeing academically and behaviorally throughout the building? And based on that data, our director of curriculum will reach out to the curriculum Facing History in Ourselves and just go through the problems that we've been having and what curricular resources they provide that will be best suited for us as a building. Our director of curriculum next month will attend professional development, just them. And that will also give our staff time to explore a lot of the free materials that is on the Facing History website. And then we'll take that, and then our director of curriculum will actually meet with our administration team, and we'll start building out what we would like this to look like in our building next year in terms of a scope and sequence, as well as creating those checkpoints throughout the way in the year so that we know and we have the evidence, the data that the professional development is working. Teachers will get paid for training over the summer as well as during our professional development week. And we will continue to have check-ins with our teachers, making sure that things are going according to plan. By the end of next year, we're going to start reflecting, and we'll start making any changes that happen based on our first year rollout of this plan. We're not expecting everything to go smoothly. That's why we built in time for us to check in with our teachers around this time next year to see what can be fixed, as well as what's working, the highlights of the program. Okay. And then so we also have our intentional rollout district-wide, and the people that it will include, especially our principal, our assistant principal, academic directors, as well as getting our ILT involved. One thing we did notice is that assessments is something that we are going to have to work on. So we are going to pay our ILT team and our grade level leads to start creating those assessments to help us have the data on how this program and how this curriculum is really reaching the achievement level for our students. Yes.
So next, we're going to look at the assessments. One of the beauty of Facing History is this idea that you can create universal assessments, but teachers can also create and design final assessments, projects, and different avenues for students to really develop out what they've learned. Our instructional leads are going to create unit assessments as exemplars and offer rubrics during our professional development for teachers. And then ultimately, our school is going to use the assessment data regularly, not only for an educational purpose, but also to look at behavioral scaffold. So are our students becoming more engaged in their learning and taking ownership, which Trevor told us at the beginning is one of the big takeaways and one of the beauties of this curriculum. Another aspect of it is really the implementation in the real life model that comes with this curriculum. And so how do we take the things that students are learning and how do we put them into real context in real life via field trips, via service learning, and different projects along the way? Some of the resources and school supports that we plan to offer at our school are structured professional development, as you've heard before, both in the action plan as well as in our intentional PD plan. Facing History allows for a liaison that will be assigned to our curriculum coordinator, our instructional leads, and so they will have consistent check-ins to make sure that we are using the curriculum not only with fidelity, but ultimately to gain the biggest benefit from what they have to offer. And then a library of curriculum based on current topics. So these topics, they are updated yearly. So every year you get a new set of curriculum that is re-engaging into what's currently happening. And so hopefully that is one of the key turning points around no longer looking just at history and letting history be history, but how does that actually inform and play into what students are currently living and what's actually happening in their world today. When we look at our curriculum budget, specifically for Facing History, there are 4 aspects to the budget that we plan to implement and budget accordingly. The first piece is our curriculum cost. So this is just Facing History in general. We are going to budget $200 per classroom for context, for curriculum resources and books, and ultimately for the learning material needed to manage this curriculum itself. The second is we plan to build out $5,000 specifically for professional development. Realistically, we know that curriculum change, development, all those things really only function successfully if teachers understand how to use it and feel well equipped and well versed in that. And therefore, we plan to do that both through the liaison, but also through our instructional leads. The third aspect is our intentional experience. And this is a $3,000 fund that we plan to set aside for application of the curriculum. So this is for field trips. This is for busing. This is for developing community partnerships and service learning that directly relates to what students are learning so that they can take the application from what they're learning and apply it to real life. And then the fourth piece is our specific stipends for grade level leads in order to be our curriculum developers. And so in order to keep this feeling like it's accessible to teachers, in order to make sure that everybody is getting the level of understanding that they need outside of professional development, this is writing assessments, this is collecting and analyzing data. Each grade level lead will get a stipend in order to maintain and control that aspect of the curriculum. So estimated, we're budgeting $14,500 per year moving forward.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the principal role, family communication, and diverse learner needs. So the principal role has three major components. The first off happens during a rollout. This is where the principal is going to make the case for why this needs to happen. It is critical that the principal talks about the moral imperative, the need that is borne out by the data, and also previews the steps of rolling it out. So teachers should not be blindsided. It should be, oh, this is the logical step based on what the data is saying. Next, the principal needs to take the lead in ongoing monitoring. So it doesn't mean that the principal has to be the one going to classroom, checking things out, but they need to meet with the curriculum director to set benchmarks, goals, and look-fors to make sure that high-quality coaching and high-quality teaching is happening. This will happen throughout, and it is also important that the principal holds the curriculum director accountable to making a training schedule and helping teachers through the curriculum. Lastly, the principal is going to be the foreman for reporting out on progress. So it is important that both family and staff get the wins highlighted early so the change makes sense. And at the end of the year, the principal is, it is important for the principal to give a summative evaluation of how it went and changes that will happen for the next year. I think we just skipped over one. There we go. So family communication. It is critical that the principal takes the lead in family communication, and we have a couple guiding principles. This communication should be early and often. We want to be transparent and inviting of input, and really highlighting the real world connection or real life value that the kids are getting. So families need to be notified before this is sent out, regular updates during, and then at the end of the year, how did it go? Okay, next slide. Lastly, this curriculum is not just for some students, but for all students. That needs to be a hallmark of the messaging. So the principal needs to notify diverse learner teachers early about the curricular use and put a special emphasis on the fact that this curriculum is for everybody, and giving people the time and space to make the accommodations and modifications that need to be made. So the principal needs to both make the case that this is critical, it's critical for everybody, and that good teaching needs to happen, which includes modifications and accommodations. There should be special oversight and monitoring to make sure diverse learner outcomes are equitable and happening at the same rate as those who are not diverse learners. Okay. And here are our resources and research. Awesome. Thank you, everybody.